Chip stocks are rallying hard today. Christina Partsinevelos has a look at what's driving those names, Christina.
Yeah, it's good that I can smile here and say it's catching a bid today with a few drivers behind the swing. Starting with the technical aspect of it first. Bank of America says its tech momentum basket is up roughly about 25% from the lows, which is great, but that only recoups about 1/5 of the sell-off just over the past month. So perspective is everything. Many chip stocks have been trading with those momentum flows, so that reversal is definitely helping names like Western Digital, SanDisk, all of the memory names for that matter. Secondly, Samsung reinforced the memory story last night with their earnings, saying the AI memory supply demand imbalance should persist through at least 2028, saying 2027 is going to be even worse than this year, while expanding their long-term supply agreements that everybody's talking about. And then finally, the AI spending story kind of, looks intact today. Microsoft said its big jump in remaining performance obligations was driven by non-frontier AI models. OpenAI CFO Sarah Friar also said July was an exceptionally strong month for demand. And then you also had Lam Research delivered a strong beat and raise, and that's lifting the entire chip equipment stock complex just today. Put it all together, you got today's rebound looking like a mix of improving momentum, stronger earnings, and maybe just a growing confidence that AI demand is still holding up, at least for today.
Recently, Nvidia relinquished its position as the most valuable corporation in the world. As of July 28th, Apple's stock has increased by 25% in 2026. This greatly outpaces the subdued 6% increase this year for the artificial intelligence AI company. However, Nvidia's market value was solidly above $5 trillion not too long ago, and this might happen again very soon. CEO Jensen Huang's optimistic assessment of the AI market's prospects from a few weeks ago will reassure investors concerned by the share's most recent decline. Investors should be positive, according to one of the most reputable AI executives. Huang basically advised investors to take aggressive action when there is market weakness while he was in Seoul, South Korea, in early June. Chip stocks were plummeting at the moment, and this trend is still ongoing. Huang thinks it's time to buy shares in these firms whenever they decline. The AI revolution, in his opinion, is only getting begun. Huang stated during Nvidia's GTC conference in March that the company will generate $1 trillion in sales from its chips through 2027, which is twice as much as the previous estimate of $500 billion through 2026. Additionally, Colette Kress, the chief financial officer, projects that by the end of the decade, spending on AI infrastructure would reach $3 to $4 trillion. The enormous number is an annual prediction rather than a cumulative total. These figures demonstrate management's strong conviction that demand will not decline. Naturally, the CEO of Nvidia has every incentive to minimize any worries the market may have about the astounding expansion of AI. His goal is to inspire investors to maintain their optimism. After all, his company, which supplies data centers with the potent graphics processing units required to run AI models, is at the center of the infrastructural boom. However, Huang's viewpoint is undoubtedly plausible considering Nvidia's phenomenal achievement, with sales and net income rising 85% and 211% respectively, year over year during Q1 2027, ended April 26th. Perhaps more than any other firm, Nvidia has a stake in AI. For instance, it has acquired shares in numerous other businesses and spent $30 billion in OpenAI in March. Additionally, it reportedly wants to guarantee OpenAI $250 billion in funding so that the top AI lab can rent a new data center in Ohio. Last quarter, Nvidia also bought back $19 billion worth of its own stock. Alphabet, a hyperscaler that is quickly increasing its processing power, recently increased its capital expenditures, CapEx, estimate for 2026 to $200 billion at the midpoint. This indicates that the expenditure is continuing. It's actually rising. When the other hyperscalers release their financial results later this week, it's highly likely that they will likewise increase their capital expenditure projections based on current patterns. The financial community's belief in the long-term viability of this AI revolution remains the greatest unknown, though. That is the market's multi-trillion-dollar dilemma. Jensen Huang will undoubtedly try his hardest to increase investor optimism. For the past 3 years, Nvidia has been the most vocal critic in the stock market. Jensen Huang, who has been in charge of the business since 1993, frequently conducts interviews and, until this week, never shared anything on social media. That came to an end on July 24th when he delivered a letter supporting open-weight artificial intelligence AI models to Washington via his first ever post on X. Washington's response was unscripted. An autonomous agent using OpenAI's models had hacked into the systems of AI firm Hugging Face 3 days prior to that post after escaping its test environment. A kill switch was being drafted by lawmakers. Huang has decided not to send a lawyer this week. He is carrying a number as he makes his way through the corridors of Congress. The models that a business publishes in their entirety are called open-weight models. The weights are available for download, inspection, modification, and model execution on personal hardware. Conversely, closed frontier systems are charged by the manufacturer and only accessible via their own infrastructure. On July 21st, that distinction ceased to be academic. OpenAI revealed that an autonomous agent based on its models sent thousands of commands, took advantage of a vulnerability, and breached Hugging Face during a cyber capabilities test. According to PMNs, the company described it as an unusual cyber incident. This is the section that caused the politics to go awry. According to CNBC, Hugging Face was unable to protect itself using top American frontier models since its guardrails failed to keep the attacker and defender apart. It resorted to an open-weight, self-hosted Chinese approach with no such limitations. Washington had been debating whether to impose restrictions on the identical Chinese models over the past few weeks. The protection was successful because any restriction would specifically target the model's ability to be downloaded and used internally. In recent weeks, lawmakers have been debating whether or not Americans should be able to acquire Chinese open models. The best real-world exhibit was accidentally given to the open camp in a single occasion, according to my read of the week. Huang intends to highlight Nvidia's commitment to build up to $500 billion worth of AI infrastructure domestically, according to an Nvidia spokesperson. Huang will meet with Republican and Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill to discuss American leadership in AI, including leading in open source, Politico reported. Prior to the sessions, Huang made a public preview of the message. He wrote on X that open models empower sovereignty, boost safety and cybersecurity, and speed innovation and dissemination. Warner and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman are scheduled to meet separately, according to Reuters. Warner's office declined to disclose the agenda. Nvidia presented their position in public without waiting for the meetings. The speed at which something moved can be explained by 4 dates. According to PMNs, OpenAI revealed on July 21st that the Hugging Face breach was created by its own models during cyber capabilities testing and described the event as unprecedented. According to CNBC, Huang published his first post on X on July 24th in support of an open-weight statement signed by 25 businesses and organizations. According to Quartz, Microsoft, SpaceX, IBM, Palantir, CrowdStrike, Cisco, and Hugging Face itself were among the founding members of Nvidia's July 27th Open Secure AI Alliance. 6 House members pushed for required independent security audits of the most potent systems, and lawmakers proposed an AI Kill Switch Act that would allow federal authorities to stop AI models, according to Reuters. According to PIMNs, Nvidia claimed in introducing the organization that nations and businesses require open frontier defensive tools so vital industries can avoid single points of failure. According to Quartz, Nvidia is supporting the partnership with open model weights, training data, and agent harness research through an open source initiative that is available on GitHub. Huang's argument is limited and difficult to reject at those settings. According to a blog post by Nvidia, defenders lose when they are unable to examine, modify, and operate sophisticated AI on their own infrastructure, according to PMNs. The majority of the coverage of the visit has ignored the fact that none of this is taking place from a position of market strength. According to Benzinga, Nvidia's stock closed Monday at $196.51, down 4.99%. The corporation lost its crown as a result of that fall. At over $4.94 trillion, Apple has regained the title of most valued public corporation, surpassing Nvidia's $4.75 trillion. Policy has nothing to do with the sell-off. Investors see the $250 billion funding deal that Nvidia and OpenAI are negotiating for the construction of an AI data center as circular financing. According to my study, Huang is defending open models in the Senate at the same time as the market began to question if the money flowing between Nvidia and its biggest clients is due to accounting loops or outside demand. The two arguments are at odds with each other. Open models reduce the reliance of the demand story on four hyperscalers and increase the buyer pool. The opposite is accomplished via a $250 billion backstop. The policy decision is concrete for everyone who owns Nvidia in an S&AMP, P500 index fund, or a 401k. The pool of businesses purchasing chips becomes smaller and wealthier if Washington limits open models, giving closed-access laboratories a moat. If it doesn't, hundreds of businesses that would otherwise rent capacity from three providers build, refine, and redeploy additional model families. According to Robinhood, Nvidia's 52-week high of $236.54 is around 20% higher than Monday's finish. There is no damage to the stock. The financing of the build-out is being re-evaluated, and Washington has now been included as a second variable. Huang is making that trade this week. Since the rule determines the number of consumers in 3 years, he is investing political capital in a rule that has no direct bearing on revenue for the following quarter. Huang allowed the chips to plead on his behalf for 30 years. Chips are unable to vote on a kill switch, which is why he is in Washington this week. On August 26th, Nvidia releases its earnings. Whether Huang wins over a senator behind closed doors is not worth keeping an eye on in the interim. Charles Payne, host of Fox Business, contends on the Rich Habits podcast that the comparison wastes a lot of time and creates a lot of hesitation for investors watching a generational build-out pass them by despite Wall Street. Continuously practicing the dot-com script every time a semiconductor stock soars higher. The reflex makes sense. In March 2000, Cisco Systems briefly held the title of most valuable corporation in the world. However, by 2002, the stock had fallen by over 89%, and 26 years later, it still hasn't reached its peak. However, whether the chart appears similar is not the load-bearing question. The question is whether the earnings below match. The mechanism that led to the disaster, not the collision itself, is the subject of Payne's long memory pattern. The majority of Cisco's growth in the late 1990s came from acquisitions rather than natural growth, and its clients were failing dot-coms that were using venture capital before collapsing. From the inside, a bubble appears as revenue growth that is dependent on the conjecture of others. Payne's requests to investors are both practical and tedious. Verify if earnings per share are rising in tandem with the stock price. Compare acquisition-driven versus organic growth. Verify PE, PEG, and forward PE. Use Nvidia and the parallel breaks to run the test. Nvidia reported sales of $81.615 billion, up 85.23% year-over-year, non-GAAP EPS of $1.87 compared to an estimate of $1.77, and a non-GAAP gross margin of 75.0% in its most recent quarter, which was filed on May 20th. Networking sales increased by 199%, and data center revenue alone hit $75.246 billion, up 92% year-over-year. Net income increased by 210.63%. That is not acquisition accounting, but rather operational leverage. Here, the valuation gut check is crucial. At its height in 2000, Cisco's revenue growth was in the 40s to 50s, and its price-to-earnings ratio was between 130x and 200x. With 85% sales growth and a return on equity of 101.49%, Nvidia is currently trading at a trailing PE of 40. The tape appears to be from the dot-com era. The math doesn't. From FY 2023 Q1 to FY 2026 Q2, Nvidia has exceeded EPS projections in every quarter. As analysts eventually catch up to the run rate, the surprise magnitudes have decreased. Who is writing the checks is Payne's second test. Dot-com Cisco failed the audit because of its customer base. The most successful businesses on the planet are Nvidia's clients, and their AI revenue is contracted rather than vaporware. On its most recent call, Microsoft informed investors that its AI business surpassed $37 billion ARR, up 123%, and that its committed backlog of commercial remaining performance obligations was $627 billion. Microsoft is on course to double its footprint in only 2 years after adding another gigawatt of capacity this quarter. There is no bubble in money that has already been signed for. The 1860s, long before 1999, serve as Payne's deeper historical mirror. Due in great part to the railroads and the Second Industrial Revolution, America surpassed the rest of the globe between 1860 and the early 1900s. Life expectancy increased, and disposable income first emerged. Additionally, such build-out resulted in forgotten winners and stunning busts. Payne clearly acknowledges that not all of today's AI champions will be relevant 10 years from now. There is a tendency for the platform to endure even when certain tickers fail. This time, access is different in his framing. While there may have been 1,000 investors during the railroad era, everyone now has the chance to participate and ride the wave. The cautionary tale from Cisco is still worth honoring. The stock has only returned 171.25% cumulatively from March 1, 2000, despite the fact that Cisco is currently experiencing a meaningful AI networking cycle of its own, with revenue of $15.8 billion up 12% year-over-year and a higher FY26 hyperscaler AI order expectation of about $9 billion. For a quarter of a century, that is the limit that a shattered multiple may put on a successful company. The present cycle, according to Jensen Huang, is of a different order of magnitude. He told analysts that Nvidia anticipates earning $1 trillion in Blackwell and Rubin income through 2027, and that by the end of this decade, AI infrastructure spending is expected to reach $3 trillion to $4 trillion yearly. Long after the crash, the build-out is the recurring pattern. The internet, railroads, electrification, and now AI manufacturing all contributed to times when the stock market outpaced evidence and then waited for earnings to catch up. Payne's claim that Nvidia's earnings are dragging the tape higher rather than chasing it is supported by the data. In the long run, Wall Street uses free cash flow to separate platform winners from visitors, and $48.554 billion in quarterly free cash flow is the kind of amount that Cisco was unable to generate in 2000. Payne says the window is open. What keeps investors on the right side of things is the homework he assigns.